It's now been 3 years since J. Cole's KOD has been released, and to me, it's probably his most overhated album, and it's one of the best concept albums that I heard in 2018, and that says a lot because that year was one of the strongest that we got in hip-hop in recent memory. So before we actually get started with the 5 things that you missed from J. Cole's KOD, let us know in the comments below your favorite song from the project.
And subscribe, guys, because we are connecting the world to hip-hop, and we are doing this on the daily. We do a load of content here, but there is a lot to take out of this project just because Cole packaged it in such a simple way. But once you open up that package, there is so many different things to take out of the track list, and there's so many different ideologies to understand and absorb with yourself, because of course this is all up for interpretation. And yes, some of you guys might know these facts already, but go back to them because there is a lot to take out of it.
Yeah, and the first one is going to be that J. Cole actually rapped over trap beats on this album to get his message across. And it was actually a pretty genius concept because, he even says it on the song 1985 that, trap drums is the shit that's hot now. So what better way to speak to the youth than to speak with them using a style that they're familiar with? And that's what J. Cole did. He produced most of the album himself, and you had a lot of 808s on the beats, you had hi-hats, you had that trap flavor. And not only that, but he also used rhyme schemes that were similar to some SoundCloud rappers. And if you look at a song like KOD, he's rapping in a staccato flow, which is very, kind of basic, you could say. But when you look at the lyrics, he's packing in a
Very
message
intricate
to the youth about how there is a drug culture within hip-hop, but he's pushing them away from that and showing them the actual dangers of consuming yourself in that lifestyle.
Absolutely. And that's the whole point of the track list too, is taking you on that drug high. And I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I feel like the concept of the album is like you're starting on that drug high, and it's kind of like birthed at a certain point, because the introduction of the album starts with a woman narrating and saying like the sort of emotions that an infant has towards receptors and like different types of things. Like obviously it cries when it's not enjoying something, and it loves it when it loves something it laughs, and then boom, album starts. So that for me was like the birth. Then the drug high starts with KOD. Then you go down the track list, and it keeps getting darker and darker and darker until you obviously get towards the last track.
Yeah.
And that was perfectly packaged, because that flew over a lot of people's heads. Not only that, but as you mentioned before, there was a good amount of trap drums, and there was a lot of different flows, but it was also like there were flows that J. Cole could pull off with ease. And besides like maybe brackets, once an addict interlude, and
it was all trap beats.
It was really all trap beats, and it was very untraditional from the sort of jazz production that we were used to getting from J. Cole.
Exactly. I just love how he camouflaged, the message of this album with this style. And he also, what's pretty cool too, is that he treats the music like a drug, in the sense that he says that, hooks are like crack, in the sense that they're addictive. That's the part of the music that sticks with you. And that's why he has repetitive hooks on the album on songs like Motivate, because it's going to stick with you, and it's kind of a metaphor on how, things that are addictive, things that are kind of easy and feel like they're super accessible, can cause danger.
Absolutely. But let's move on to number 2, and that is actually about the Kill Edward ego and the whole explanation behind it. So this is super interesting because a lot of people just thought it was a random alter ego that he was trying to create, and trying to say, oh, now I have features on the album. But no, this actually stems back from his stepfather, who was named Edward, and he kind of attributes Kill Edward to himself, and sort of like an actual ego that's actually in his soul, but that possesses all of his bad qualities
that he inherited from his stepfather.
But the thing is that he was also trying to find a way to properly talk about his past, but in more of a different way than he was doing on previous albums. So on For Your Eyes Only, he was just thinking about how could I diversify my content in a way that doesn't sound too stagnant from the stuff that I was doing before, but doing it maybe in a more alternative sort of experimental way. And that's how the alter ego Kill Edward came to be.
Yeah, exactly, because he felt like under the name J. Cole, he was trapped inside of a box, because for so much of his career he was telling his story, and he wanted to end that. So the best way was for him to create that alter ego. And what's pretty mind-blowing is that he created this alter ego, and it's J. Cole, but with his vocals pitched down lower. And throughout the album, you hear features on The Cutoff and Friends, and he's pretty much an abuser. And Kill Edward is J. Cole wanting to kill all of those kind of negative personality traits that he has within him. So it's a pretty cool concept, you know, what he did with that.
Yeah, but let's move on to number 3. We got explaining the 3 KODs, and this is really cool because it does follow the rule of 3, and it does kind of put the whole concept into motion. So Lou, start with the first one, and then after that, I'll go through the rest of them.
Yeah, so the first one is kids on drugs. And, you know, that meaning is really, you know, it goes back to the whole drug culture of today and how certain artists are kind of promoting that into their music. And of course, it influences, you know, the youth to consume these drugs because a lot of the youth idolize the artists that they listen to. You know what I mean? They look up to them in a sort of role model light. And if your favorite artist is consuming these drugs, and, you know, what's to really stop you from popping that pill or taking that sip of lean if your artist is doing it?
Absolutely, and it's pretty mind-blowing because of someone of his stature could sell that type of content matter, but he's staying away from it. But the next one we got is King Overdose, and this is more of like, you know, the overdose of overindulgence. It's kind of like Nas's interpretation of King's disease of, you know, you have too much at your fingertips and it will overtake you and overtake your energy. And this is something that J. Cole doesn't only rap about on this album, but in a lot of his lyrics is like he's watching all of these people around him overconsume, overindulge in their powers, whether that be women or money, cars, you name it. But that's really about getting to a place where you're so high that you can't see the bottom. But guess what happens? The higher you are, the harder you fall. And that's kind of the whole concept of it. And it's really amazing because you see it as a prominent figure within the track list. And if you didn't have that part of it, then it would probably be missing.
Yeah, and the third meaning, of course, is kill our demons, which relates back to Kill Edward. And you actually hear Cole rapping on window pane saying, all I want to do is kill the man that made my mama cry. Sorry for the stutter there, but, you know, it's pretty much, you know, this meaning to me, the way that I interpret it is that J. Cole is saying we have to kind of remove the toxicity that we have within our own personalities and kind of focus on the good and eliminate the bad, killing our demons, killing our addictions, killing all of the things that weigh us down and kind of bring a negative energy to our lives. And
cleansing the soul.
Exactly.
And it's interesting because that's something that's coming to light nowadays as more and more people are trying to find themselves and trying to focus on their mental health and trying to go through these negative energies that are bringing us down, but that we don't necessarily see because we're too indulgent to them and we're too in the moment to be able to like really step back from these things and understand them as a situation. So those are really cool meanings to have in this project, and the way that it flows through is fucking genius.
Yeah. So the next point, number 4 on this list, is actually the pop culture references on the album. And there's actually a lot of them, and they kind of probably flew over some people's heads. So the first one that I want to point out is actually on KOD, where J. Cole raps, I stacked a few M's like my last name was Shady. And that's pretty cool because, you know, it's a play on words, and it's Cole maybe tossing a little shout out to Eminem.
Absolutely. But I'm going to read through more of them here because we got the notes. And this one's on ATM. It says, we ball in your court, then skate on your bitch like we Tanya Harding. That's fire.
Yeah.
On Motivate, we got, and I got bread like I'm Green Day. On Motivate, we got he except Sean Kemp to keep that 40 millimeter on him. On, you know, obviously the whole Kevin's Hart thing had to do with Kevin Hart and the whole allegations.
That was interesting.
That was very interesting to implement into the track list. Then after that, we have on 1985 the Love and Hip Hop reference with just remember what I told you, when your shit flop in 5 years, you're gonna be on Love and Hip Hop.
And that relates back to No Role Models because, you know, of course there's that famous line on the song where he's like, you know, I don't want no bitch from reality shows. So that content kind of comes full circle where he feels like that whole concept of a reality show is fake and it's not really genuine, you could say.
Yeah, and it's sort of like Cole is giving you this really introspective side of himself where he's indirectly sharing all these emotions with you throughout the track list. But the last one is actually really interesting because it's about 1985, and I feel as if a lot of people misinterpret this, but 1985 is actually not a diss track towards anyone. It's really just a message for guidance throughout, you know, the youth of the hip hop and the people that are coming up, and the sort of advice that J. Cole has to give them because he sort of feels like he was in that place at one point in his life and he had to get out of it or else his career would have died.
Yeah, and I love the way that Cole approaches this song because he's walking you through all the pitfalls that certain artists who lead a certain lifestyle could fall into if they continue down that path. He says, like, okay, you know, if you're rapping about the type of content matter that you're rapping about, are the kids that love it now going to like it when they age and mature in 5 years from now? Another thing he says, too, is like, you know, you're spending your money to portray a lifestyle. It's all about social media. It's all about the appearance that you give off. It's all about having the flashy cars, the nice crib, the women around you. But is that really genuine to who you are and kind of the personality that you want to portray?
Yeah, will it feed your soul? Will it help you really, what are you doing this for? Are you doing it for popularity or are you doing this for growth? And I think that's something that a lot of people have to distinguish. Even off hip hop is like, when you're doing something, it has to be, a self-growth project as well, regardless if it's music or something like we do as podcasting. If you could find a passion in something and it drives you to be a better person, then do it.
Yeah, 100%.
But the problem is that when people are not doing that and they get sort of sold on the overindulgences, like, the high fashion and the cars and the women and everything else that comes with it, like, obviously everyone fucks with that. Like, that's no joke. Like, who doesn't? You would be dishonest to say you wouldn't, but too much of it is like too much. It becomes a cancer.
And Cole actually, relates to them. And that's what's great is that, he sees himself in that middle generational gap where he's between the old school and the new school. And he relates to them in the sense that he's like, yeah, in my past, I've overindulged in women and having, a lot of encounters and kind of getting carried away by that. But he's really a true role model throughout the whole album. And what I love is that this is a cautionary tale. This is him saying, like, there's ways for you to have a rap career where you're not doing things just to impress your fans and portraying a lifestyle that isn't true to your identity. And what's pretty mind-blowing too is that there's not many other rappers that have made a concept album like this where they're actually kicking game to newer artists.
It's crazy because that's what it does. But as we said before, it's packaged so simple and there's so much to it. So guys, listen, if you love J. Cole content, hit that subscribe button. We're connecting the world to hip hop. And thank you guys for coming in. Thank you so much, guys, for watching the episode. Listen, we got a lot of stuff going on here at NFR. You guys could join our community by joining our Discord chat. It's absolutely popping. The link is going to be in the bio, guys. And listen, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification tabs. We're doing daily content here at NFR Podcast. Thank you guys for sticking in, and I'll see you on the next one.